Yeah.
listening to do
Do
the
also
consent
say-
thing when I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Oh, well.
should we start watching? They must think like, we've come down here for special.
So you're, yeah.
So yeah, I have
No, if that works, you know, because I think
Worked, did
that's
it?
what I normally do.
Not bad. Evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome to the council meeting. Vic, do you have any apologies for absences?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, we do. We have apologies from Mark Driscoll, Fran Victory, Malcolm Victory, Kathy Wells, Tom Wells and Christine Wild.
Thank you, Vic. Do we have any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or any other interests? Anything on the agenda? We've got a number of items. Who's pointing? Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, because I work for the Citizens Advice as a social prescriber, I feel I should really declare an interest on 9 and 10, and I probably won't stay for those either, just because I work with people who are wrapped up in all of that, and yeah, I don't feel I should stay.
Thank you. Was there anybody else? Just Sarah. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meetings. This was the one on the 27th of February. Can I ask for a proposer for that? Anybody? Thank you, Jeremy. And a seconder, Beverly. And can I have a vote that those minutes were as you remember, if you were here? I wasn't here, so thank you. That's carried. Okay. Before we get down to the items on the agenda, just a few announcements from myself. So firstly, good evening. I want to firstly begin by expressing my sincere thanks to all those who supported my London Marathon fundraising efforts so far. I'm now around halfway to my target, and I've been genuinely moved by the generosity shown both from colleagues here at the council and from the wider community. Of course, every donation, large or small, makes a real difference. Last Thursday, I held a charity quiz at the Bell in Lower Broadheath, and I want to thank everyone who came along and took part. It was a brilliant evening, and I'm delighted to say it raised a further few £100s for the Stroke Association. As many of you know, I'm running the London Marathon this year in aid of the Stroke Association. It's a charity that does incredible work supporting survivors and their families, funding vital research and raising awareness of the condition that affects so many people across the UK. Taking on the marathon is both a personal challenge and an opportunity to contribute to a cause that matters deeply to me. Training is going well, but I'm now into the long runs, as you can imagine, so it's starting to feel very, very real. Alongside the fundraising, it's been a busy period representing the council across the region. I've had the pleasure of attending a number of events recently, including the Tourism Awards on Friday night with our economic development team. It was fantastic to see so many talented and hard-working individuals and companies recognised, and even better to see several winners from right here in Malvern. This included, very local to me, Rowley Farm, Astley Vineyard, Morgan's Great Factory Tour, and the Crown at Martley, which was highly commended. There were more as well, but with the recent news that Malvern Hills is the best place to live in the Midlands, it's no wonder our tourism sector is going from strength to strength. Their achievements highlight the strength, creativity and resilience of our local tourism sector, particularly when it hasn't always been easy for them. Malvern, as you'll know, is also aiming to be the UK's first town of culture, which comes with a prize of £3 million. We've seen support come from far and wide. This funding would support a year-long programme of cultural, artistic and heritage events, and again support our tourism sector, as well as strengthening partnerships across communities. And I think, of course, that's something we can all support. A reminder that this Friday, 27th of March at 2 p.m, the Tourism Forum will be held at Elgar's birthplace in Lower Broadheath. This is an opportunity for businesses, mayors and chairs to visit one of our district's great assets, as well as hear from our team on future tourism plans. And just finally, two final reminders. The consultation on proposals for local government reorganisation in Worcestershire closed on the 26th of March, which is Thursday. So I would ask members to encourage their parish councils and residents to complete the survey before the deadline, should they wish to make their views known. And finally, a reminder that a by-election will take place on Thursday, the 30th of April, 2026, to elect a councillor for Tenbury Ward of Malvern Hills District Council. Quite a lot there, thank you. Public participation, we have none. And leaders' questions time, John, you'll be glad to know we have none as well. So agenda item number 7, the adoption of South Worcestershire Development Plan Review. And I'd like to invite Councillor David Harrison to move the recommendation in the report. Before I do, Just to remind everybody, obviously we've discussed this many, many times, and I'm not wanting to stop any debate or discussion about it, but obviously ultimately we're here to decide whether we adopt the review or not. And we do have, in terms of any questions, we've got Isabel Roberts and Ian with us as well this evening. Over to you, David.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Normally, I get through these quite quickly. This is a little bit more that we have to do more or less 100% by the book. I normally just do a sort of a subsidiary of the various points. But I will get through this as quick as I can and what have you. And as our dear Chairman said, we have a variety of personnel from the planning department that are sat behind me, with Ian, Isabel, Hannah, Andy, and there's some more as well, tucked on the back row and everything. So they're here to help if there are any questions. I'll start off. This is something that has been worked on for approximately 10 years. It's not our fault. As you probably gather, over the last 24 hours, the government changed their mind every time they open their mouths. I think they might be like Mr. Trump, something like that, who does the same sort of thing. But anyway, we are where we are. And the intention is that this has come forward as the first item on the agenda tonight, first main item on the agenda, to adopt the South Worcester Development Plan review. Brief summary: the purpose of the report: the existing South Worcester Development Plan was adopted in 2016 and it's now classed as out of date. The South Worcester Development Plan review has been examined by two very capable inspectors and found sound and is now ready for adoption, subject to the main modifications that have been through this council once already. Once it's adopted and after approved by all three councils, it becomes the new local plan and carries full weight in planning decisions. Not quite certain when this is going to be. It goes to us today and then Worcester City and Wychavon tomorrow. So it may be tomorrow night it actually becomes legalised, or it may have to be Thursday. Thought it might be. I put probably Thursday down on here. The inspector's key findings are as follows. The planning inspectors concluded that the plan is sound and legally compliant with the proposed main modifications. Becomes even more sinister for us. A 5-year housing land supply can be demonstrated on adoption with a 5% buffer. The spatial development strategy is positively prepared and justified, and there's a council's approach to strategic sites has been completely supported, i.e. Worcestershire Parkway, now known as Wychavon Town, Rushwick and Mitten. The recommendations to council: that the council notes the report from the inspectors Lewis and Worthington, which could be found at Appendix 2, and finds the South Worcester Development Plan review sound, subject to, as I said, the main modifications which were consulted on in January and February this year. 2.2, that the council adopts the South Worcestershire Development Plan review as set out in Appendix 1. An updated designed version will replace the current plain text version once it has been completed. This will probably be a month or so. The main thing was to get all the text done and get all that approved, which we have got from our offices. 2.3. The Council delegates authority to the Director for Planning and Infrastructure to make further minor changes to the South Worcestershire Development Plan Review and the policies map for clarity, consistency and presentation for publication on the District Council's website. 2.4. That Council authorises the Director of Planning and Infrastructure to begin preparing a new local joint plan with Worcester City, Malvern Hills District Councils, which will be prepared under the new plan making framework and will, upon adoption, replace the South Worcester Development Plan Review. The report recommends that the Council notes the Inspector's reports confirming soundness, adopts the SWDPR with main modifications and delegates authority to the Director of Planning and begins the new local plan. Those are the 4 items. Basics and rationale. Over 200 consultation responses were received on the main modifications. Adoption provides certainty for residents, businesses and developers. A new local plan is required soon due to a new national housing target method introduced in December 2024, increasing our local housing number requirements. The government deadline for publishing a notice of plan making has to be made by June 2026, i.e. this year, to say we are going to go down that route. So the 4th recommendation is to satisfy that. And also a gateway assessment, which those that attended the training on what was to happen with the plans would have seen and heard, and I think it's going to be available very soon on the website for councillors to see how this is to interact and what have you. The joint plan making across South Worcestershire is considered the most suitable and effective approach, and it has worked well over the last 20 years. We've been working with Wychavon and Worcester City for that long. Implications: financial. No significant financial implications will be required. Future plan making is funded from existing budgets and is not here, but the cost of those are in the existing budgets. The risks: not adopting the SWDP would leave the councils unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, making them vulnerable to speculative development. To my mind, after doing all this work for so long, that is not an option. Council priorities: adoption, supporting housing delivery, economic growth and protection of countryside and landscape character. How are we doing so far? I'm quite finished, but I ain't far away. Strategic content: Worcester City's constrained boundary. This is from the planning inspectors. Worcester City's constrained boundary means it cannot meet its own housing needs. Joint planning helps distribute growth sustainably. Further work is underway on Throckmorton, which has been agreed by the planning inspectors for it's got a special name, I don't know, but they're still looking at it for a new settlement to come forward in the future. Normally, I would sort of finish there, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to read another statement, which I think is one of the most important within the planning inspectors' statements that's come out. And it says the council should consider whether adoption could have any effect on appeals currently being considered by the planning inspectorate. As you know, appeals must be determined on the basis of the development plan as it exists at the time of the inspector's or the Secretary of State's decision, not as it was at the time of the council's decision or when it was submitted. If adoption changes the policy position, the relevant inspectors will need to take that into account. And I believe that the officers are already working on that to supply the lists of all those appeals and other items that they need to be aware of. In addition, please ensure that the new policy position is clearly explained when submitting questionnaires in relation to future appeals received after adoption. That is critical from the 5-year housing land supply, and I think that's why I wanted to read that. I don't have any questions. I've had all my questions over the last probably 10 years. Don't quite remember, it seems to go on and on. I think it's been very good. I would like to congratulate all the staff, including our Director of Planning that we have here now, the 5 previous planning heads of planning that we've had while I have been as a councillor here at Malvern Hills. They've all done their little bit, and of course the staff that we have in place now, I think they've been fantastic to get this through. It's been a long job and I think they've done exceptionally well. I'll hand this over for any comments and what have you. I will propose this at the end so you know the various 4 points that are there.
Thank you. So you are proposing this before I go to a seconder, is that correct?
Yes, I'm quite willing to propose it now if you wish, Mr. Chairman, the 4 points that are listed.
Thank you. John, are you looking to second this? Is what you've got?
I want to make a comment, if I may.
Quickly then, yeah.
Just for the correction of the record, when Councillor Harrison read out the 2.4, he omitted Wychavon District Council. He mentioned Worcester City and Malvern Hills, but not Wychavon.
Thank you, John. That's fine. Seconder, Beverly? Do you want to comment to that?
No, I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got a proposal and a second. I'm going to open this out to debate and discussion. In terms of any questions, David, I'll come to you, and then because you've got an army of people behind you, if you want to designate answerers, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Martin, I'll come to you first.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Council. Thank you, David, for this report. And can I thank all the officers as well? It's been a sterling, long job. And some of us must have wondered if we were ever actually going to get there. It's just a question, I think I know the answer anyway, regarding Worcester Parkway and the new town that's in the SWDPR. Now, the government has announced, as I've no doubt you're all aware, there seem to be some changes. How does this affect us, and more importantly, the people who already live around Worcester Parkway? Are we still proceeding with the town?
I know there was an email in reference to this, wasn't there? But if I come to you, David.
Yes, an email was sent out by Vic, our chief executive, and also I received one from Isabel, and also, sorry, verbal one from Isabel, and a written one from our director, Ian McLeod. I don't know what the government, as I said, have done really. Homes England are the owners of the land, I believe, that houses the town centre for the new Worcestershire Parkway or Wychavon Town and what have you. So that will be going forward. They are also well involved, and even the map that was recently produced includes Homes England and what have you. I don't think it's got any problems with it at all. It's just that probably they decided that they don't want to put any more funding in and leave it to, hopefully, the developers to put most of the funding in to get it going. But I'll pass to Ian first because he's chief.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. So just to assure you all, it's very much business as usual for Wychavon Town. There's been no change in its status whatsoever from the government announcement. The proposal Wychavon Town was never reliant on it being designated as a new town. We're still working very closely with Homes England through the Housing Accelerator programme to bring funding into the scheme and address any viability challenges which we have moving forward. So the announcement was obviously government-led, related to the Newtown programme specifically, and we're continuing as usual in promoting the allocation and working closely with Homes England to deliver the scheme.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Ian. Paul?
Yes, well done for getting all of this together after such a long time. It has been quite a job, to put it mildly. I remember when the first one started, 2008 or 7, something like that. It was a long, long time ago. All I wanted to say was this: there has to be a qualification. This is not going to be completely in the interests of these local communities or anywhere else across the country. This is national planning policy, which we have had to deal with, and that has changed consistently, decade after decade. There's no plan to do up city centres, use all of the vacant buildings and areas above shops, for example, which really should be first. This is house building driven by big developers, and it's just, I don't know, it just seems a shame that the overall area that we're talking about doesn't seem to kind of come into this. This is a nationally driven project with national targets. Thank you very much, though, for making the best of those constraints. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Do you have any other comments? Peter?
Thank you, Chair. I'm indebted to the previous speaker for highlighting that this is something that is effectively being imposed on us from above. I do acknowledge the officers' contributions to this. They've worked long and hard, but at the end of the day, this is not a great solution for our communities, and particularly not for my electors in Rushwick. There we have an industrial site that is probably physically incapable of being built out. We have a solution, as I suspect elsewhere, that is not sustainable in any way until a railway station is built, which it will not be, as I've laboured before to council, and I think everyone agrees with me on that. There is just no chance. Even the inspectors say it's not going to happen until Worcester area re-signalling, which is not going to happen for at least 15 years, I am advised. And yet, as Councillor Harrison has so eloquently said, we are where we are. I am very unhappy with this plan as it stands. I don't believe it's sustainable. I don't believe it's green. I don't believe it's in the interests of our communities or residents. And yet, inevitably, we will have to do it, because if we don't, the government will slap us about. And that's the end of it.
Thank you, Peter. Sorry, Natalie first. I'll come to Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Just picking up on those points, actually, we're being told by the government to build, 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 but obviously we're not a priority area in South Worcestershire anymore. It's more the Labour-controlled council areas that are priority areas that are seen to be having the investment. I do agree that it's not a green plan. It's not entirely sustainable, but we are where we are with it. And thank you to officers for getting us to this stage, because what we must avoid is speculative development, which we've seen a lot of in the last few months anyway. So we need to put an end to that straight away. Hopefully residents will feel assured that there are conversations going on behind the scenes with regard to specific developments that are included in the plan, including the Kales Farm development, where we're meeting developers and officers regularly to make sure that's the best it can be. So no, not an ideal position, but we are over a barrel. The government have got us there, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Sarah?
Thanks. Yeah. I think I've been involved in this since the SWDP started. I feel like that's my whole life has been listening to these meetings. And I remember whichever year it was, when we had to go to the bank house because it was so contentious and we couldn't fit everyone in the room. And we're not really there anymore, are we? I feel people have lost the will to live with it, because we don't really feel that we're having any influence on it. We can't change anything. I don't feel like I've been able to influence and change it. And like Peter, I've been going on about the train station forever. So the bizarre thing is that we probably will approve this tonight, and then we'll wake up tomorrow morning with a 5-year land supply, which is not real. It's all just made up, isn't it? So I remember approving the 800 houses at Newland back in 20, whatever that was, 15, 16. And now they're back in this plan because they didn't get built. So it is all just smoke and mirrors and pretense. And the weird thing for me is that Wyre Forest have got a 9-year housing land supply, and yet there's 3,500 people on their housing waiting list. So that doesn't make sense to me. If this is the right number of houses to house everyone who lives here, then how can that be true? So, like Peter, there's no way they're going to build Rushwick train station, and it might say in the SWDPR the bit that it will be built by the end of the plan period, but it doesn't say who's paying for it, and it doesn't say how it's going to happen, so it's not going to happen. And a bit like all the Gypsy Traveller sites that we had planned into the first one, they didn't happen either because we were given £1 million and they still haven't been built. So I just feel very disappointed that we're here again, that we have to probably approve it. Well, I know everyone else will vote for it, I probably won't, which is the luxury of knowing you all will. And like Peter said, like the ED site that we know of, that's not deliverable, and the train station's not going to happen. So no, it's not the best plan in the world, it's a plan, and I know everyone's worked incredibly hard on it, but we're not going to wake up tomorrow morning and have solved the housing crisis. In fact, it's probably not going to help many people at all. So there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. John.
Yes, I heard what everybody has said about the plan. One of my concerns is obviously that we have a 5-year license plan with a 5% buffer, but that is going to be changed, isn't it? And the government are going to want a 20% buffer. So how long is our 5-year housing land supply going to last before we're going to get a load of more speculative developments again?
Thank you. I take it is that a rhetorical question or one for David? David.
Thank you. Interesting, because the inspectors were very categoric that we have a 5-year housing land supply until the end of this plan period. And, you know, that's what we've all been working for. That's what the inspectors said. As was said earlier, it's interesting that we have a 2% or nearly 2% housing land supply today, and hopefully by Thursday we'll have a 5% and what have you, which some people say is ludicrous, but that's the way that the government have decided that the numbers will work. Don't always agree with them, but we have to do the best we can and what have you. And I think that this is the best that we can do at this present moment in time. Again, I'll pass over to Ian, who will probably give us some more information on the 5-year housing land supply.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. So you're absolutely right. The inspectors confirmed we've got a 5-year housing land supply of a 5% buffer. That's obviously on adoption. We'll be reviewing that position on an annual basis then as part of our annual monitoring reports going forward, which Isabel and the team will be leading on. We appreciate the comments which have been made in relation to Rushwick. They've been made many times before, and they were considered in detail by the inspectors at the examination. Their conclusions are clear within the report. Then everybody had the opportunity through the public inquiry to make their views known. In terms of their new numbers, obviously the housing target increases significantly. So, you know, in terms of the challenges going forward, the new methodology for the South Worcestershire councils, you know, is a big challenge for meeting future housing growth. You know, it nearly doubles the housing requirement. So we'll have big challenges going forward on meeting that future housing need. But nevertheless, this plan provides for nearly 25,000 new homes, which is a significant contribution to meeting housing need across the 3 districts, and will make an important contribution to our housing supply, as well as meeting affordable housing, social rent, and getting people off the housing waiting lists with a requirement for 40% affordable housing across the board. So this is an important step forward in meeting our housing need, but obviously there'll be challenges to come in looking at the new numbers.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Ian. I'm going to go to Paul next and then to Jeremy. So Paul first.
One of the biggest complaints about the speculative applications of the past couple of years has been that, apart from the fact they don't want it, has been the lack of infrastructure. And I must say there's a lot to that point. So I think as the plan progresses, I know we look at the facilities that are available, but we should be monitoring very closely whether they're in place or not. If they're not in place, to put pressure on the relevant people to get something done. And I include in that the county council on the roads, because so far nothing's at all being done to look at the current problems, and that is wrong. So I would be very pleased if every year we do a survey, we do pick some areas that are not working, and we do so need to put them right.
Thank you, Paul. Jeremy?
Yeah, it's just a comment. I mean, it's very easy to look at this and think of things being, you know, completely half full. And I note the points about Rushwick and the lack of, you know, getting the railway halt put in. But it does overlook, I think, the work that's been done on Wychavon and the Worcestershire Parkway site. That's a really good example of joined up thinking, where we're putting in, or we put in the railway station. We are thinking about how we design a town, particularly around sustainable travel as well. That's a very important part of that going forward. I also think the Mitten development's very good in the context that it's a great use of land, building alongside our neighbours in Tewkesbury Borough and engaging with our neighbours in Tewkesbury Borough. So I think, you know, our officers have done a really good job over the last 6 or 7 years in pulling together a genuinely thought through plan that acknowledges the challenges that we have from government numbers, but tries to deliver something that's sustainable for our people and works with our communities rather than always against our communities. And I just wish that maybe the Forest of Dean had thought about doing the job that our officers have done in engaging with their neighbours before they promoted the Glinchbrook site, which is on the edge of Malvern Hills district area, putting in thousands of new homes without even consulting with us before they put the piece of paper out. So I think well done to the officers in the SWDP, and shame on the Forest of Dean.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any other questions? Oh, I can't see any hands. Dean?
I get my voice in somewhere because I first came on this council when the old RSVP, no, RS for something of that, regional spatial strategy was ruling it, and we thought we were going to be saved by a change of government, who immediately brought in this new system and imposed even more houses on us. I've heard all the remarks being made. I don't think there's anybody I disagree with what they've said. There are definitely, it is an imposed system. It's not one we choose. But as with all planning applications, I don't think there's anywhere good to build anymore. All the best places were chosen probably a couple of 100 years ago. And everything we do now actually diminishes its utility. Law of diminishing returns, I suppose, ultimately. I would really thank our officers. I was involved in the JAP meeting which started this revision off, and we were all asked as councillors to go. I think we were over at Pershaw to go and put little hotels and houses and things on maps. And actually, strangely enough, I don't think we put one at Rushwick. Unfortunately, unfortunately, we didn't put one. Sensibly, we didn't put one at Rushwick, and that has happened. The one thing I would say, but haven't had a lot of new houses imposed on my village, is that those people who have arrived, on the whole, I've quite enjoyed meeting them. They're quite nice people. They've not done an awful lot of harm. And possibly because there have been houses built, some of their local people have also been able to find houses. So it does have that positive thing. We don't actually go back to the poor law where you weren't allowed to move out your village. I would echo the thanks to our officers. They have all been excellent. In fact, I think not only have they been excellent, but they've been getting better over the time. Their communication, I'm going to particularly mention Isabel, because she's at JAP meetings, she's actually managed to make things reasonably clear to somebody even as dense as me. But they've all been excellent. They have listened. They've done their best. They were constrained as much as we're constrained, and they come out with the best of what can be done. So my thanks to them.
Thank you, Dean. I'm going to come back to David, and then we'll go to the vote, David.
Thank you. Just picking up on Councillor Rouse's point, you know, things haven't been going forward, particularly Newlands. At the same time as Newlands, Worcester South came forward as a new area for housing for approximately 2,500 houses. Well, you'll be pleased to know, and I don't know whether it's coincidence or not, but the full application has been validated and submitted today for the 2,500 that are there, including everything that goes with it. So I'm very pleased with that. So we may get some more there as well. So very pleased about that. But no, just like to reiterate sort of thing, thank everybody for their comments. They are noted. I know Isabel's been writing and what have you, and Ian never stops writing. And I know that Andy Ford there, normally he's got a pad and it's full by now, but he hasn't today, so he must be very confident. He's probably going to use the tape to do it, sort of thing. So very good, but thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody. Let's go for a vote. So it's on the 4 proposals that David highlighted earlier. Tamisha?
So all those in favour, could you raise your cards now, please? And all those against? And all those abstaining? So that's clearly carried, Chair, with 21 votes for and 2 against and no abstentions.
Thank you, Misha. On to agenda item 8. I'm going to be coming back to Councillor Harrison again. Thank you, David. So it's the developer contributions, SPD approval to consult. David.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Another important item coming forward. We've had 2 already come forward earlier last week, and this is another one, and I believe that there are some more to come forward as well. These are supplementary planning documents which are here for approval. Now, the difficulty here is the whole planning system changes, and we have to adopt these before the end of March. Difficulty to, we have to approve this before the end of March to go out for consultation for this 5 weeks. The difficulty here is that development supplementary planning documents will cease to exist, or, well, won't cease to exist, they'll cease to be added to the list of documents fairly soon and what have you. So we have to go through this to do it. This is a supplementary planning document for the obviously community infrastructure levy and the planning obligations for builders and what have you to do. This is actually critical because there is one statement that says we do not want to pay this ourselves. The developers must pay it. Only if this is approved will the developers be liable to sort of pay it and what have you. What does it do? It provides the funding for all the items that you need to make a planning development sustainable. The recommendations to Council to approve this draft SPD for consultation from the 30th of March till the 30th of April this year, to authorise the Director of Planning and Infrastructure with the portfolio to make minor amendments before publication. And then after consultation, if no major issues arise, authorise the minor amendments and refer the SPD for formal adoption. Again, they've been working on this for a very long time and what have you. 30th of June is the actual national deadline. No more SPDs will be approved after the 30th of June. So we have to keep battling as best we can. I'm not going to go on and do any more because you've heard enough from me tonight.
Thank you. So you're moving the 3 recommendations under 2.1 in the report, David?
That's correct, sir, yes.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Beverly again, I'll come to you. Anything to say? Okay. And again, can I open this up, Paul?
Will we have enough time to see this? Will this come to the next full council meeting after the consultation has finished? Because if you're talking about June, have we got enough time? I just wondered.
Thank you, Paul. David?
I'll pass that one to Vic.
Ian?
I'm
do you
going to
want
pass over to
take
Ian.
Yes, so obviously approving to consult, Chair, will take account of the comments, report those back before adoption at the end of June. The deadline for the government to get these all in place is the end of June before SPDs are abolished. So we've got time to bring it back for adoption.
That didn't actually answer the question, because will it need to come back to a full council meeting is what I really wanted to know, and when that would be.
It will. It'll be the 23rd of June. Paul, is that all right? Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts? Comments? Natalie, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the heads up on this, Izzy. You did mention that we'd have quite a raft of these to get through as the planning changes are coming on board again. Just as we're getting our ducks in a row, the government will probably try and shoot them like they do with all of the things we're trying to get in place, I think, at the moment. But clearly, this is a comprehensive document that's now ready to go out to consultation, covering a range of issues from open spaces and playing fields to physical resources, including schools and GP practices, all of which are vital if we are to provide sustainable communities. So I'm particularly pleased to see the reference to allotments in Table 2, because I think that food security is a big and growing, sorry for the pun, problem, and something that we can in some parts start to address. So I've got 3 specific questions, if that's okay, Chair. There is a considerable element of the document that references the county council, particularly in terms of sufficiency of school places and transport, and we've just been mentioning highways, haven't we? Can I ask how involved they've been to this at this stage, or are they just involved as a consultee? So have we worked together with them to produce this, or are they just responding as consultees? Are there any proposed obligations for developers to harvest rainwater or collect grey water? I think with stark fluctuations between drought and flood at the moment, surely that needs to be a consideration going forward. And then about Annex A, I can see a commuted sum for new trees and maintaining shrubs and hedges, but no amount for the maintenance of new trees. And we know that, unfortunately, they get planted by the developers and then they get ignored and they die. So they're not looked after. So what can we write into this SPD to mitigate against the trees dying and ensure that they're looked after? Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. David, did you get all those?
I got all those. I'm going to start with the last one first, because that one really annoys me. The new trees, and they plant them, as you say, and then they leave them. This is the time for this document and for you to make comments. It is a consultation document and what have you, so you need to be writing in about this and make sure that trees, and I know I have been trying personally to get them to at least look after them for 10 years, but you know, we really need to alter this. 5 years is not long enough, because if they plant them the first week when they go on site, by the time they finish some of the developments and then decide, the first few trees are already dead. So we can't do much about it. As far as the grey water and the rainwater, you'll notice that there are conditions going in regarding that rainwater butts have to be provided for most houses now, or a similar sort of system and what have you. I defy anybody to have any more than I've got in my property, and I don't have to pay Severn Trent anything, because I don't give them any water. I keep it all on my patch of land for them, which is only an ordinary house. So yes, but again, please make the comments. As far as have Worcester County Council been involved, I don't know. I'll come to that in just a moment. But again, Worcester County Council did produce a document very recently regarding school places, which said that schools were full and they can't afford to build any schools. So I have no idea what's going to happen there. So I'm going to pass you over to Ian, who no doubt will be able to answer that one.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. So County Council have been involved. This is a SPD has been in place for a number of years. It contains detail on a number of areas which are county matters, for example, education, provision, maintenance, highways, etc. So the county have been involved in that discussion. They've seen the detail coming through, and there's obviously support there from them in terms of getting this SPD updated, so we can continue have it in place now once we've obviously adopted the plan as well. So yeah, full involvement, and they're supportive of the approach. But obviously, if they do have any issues, they can pick those up as part of the consultation process.
Thank you, Natalie. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if I might just quickly come back, David. I think you summarised rather than told an accurate picture of the school situation with Worcestershire. They're building some, but not others. So it's a complex thing. But yeah, the sufficiency document did say that there are problems with lots of schools being full. The two things about the trees and the harvesting the rainwater are linked, aren't they? Because surely then, you know, if people are on meters in new housing as well, if the developer can provide some way of collecting rainwater and grey water, then that could be used to look after the trees. And then we might be able to encourage more residents to take an active role in that, as well as expecting the developers to. So I shall make that point in my response to the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. As well as Natalie making those points, obviously it's been raised in the meeting, so could they be taken from this as well, in terms of they've been raised at the council meeting? Is that okay, Ian? Thank you. Any other comments or thoughts?
Can I just, one little point to come back. It's also been mentioned earlier on regarding doctors and hospitals. Now, the SWDPs are places where local doctors can be included. I don't think that the main plan can be used for that, because they have to be forward funded. But I'm sure that people might like to put that in also regarding, as I say, doctors, pharmacists, dentists, anything like that. I think they're all very important. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any comments before we go to the vote on this one? Okay, let's go to the vote. Misha?
All those in favour, could you raise your cards now, please? That's unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item 9. So David now gets a break, and we come to Jenny. And it's the addendum to the private sector housing assistance policy. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to give Councillor a rest and to carry on the theme of housing this evening. The report set out before you is a recommendation to approve an addendum detailed in Appendix 1 to the existing housing assistance policy, set out in more clearly with relevant delegations and general consents. I won't go through the background of the detail. I'm sure if there are questions that officers and I will attempt to pick those up, but submit the report and the recommendations to Council, and hopefully a seconder will follow.
Thank you, Jenny. Do you have a seconder? Jeremy? Wait, no, any comments? Any questions, thoughts on this? Looking. Go on, Natalie.
Okay, then. So, and we do know that people recover from illness and injury quicker if they can do so at home, don't we? So, and the DFG scheme's been fraught with delivery issues, largely due to there being an insufficient number of occupational therapists, and our inability to penalise the outgoing provider. We're in between providers at the moment for poor work, non-delivery, and the fact that maximum grants available, so which is £30,000 as it says in the paperwork, have not been reviewed by successive governments. So they've stuck at that for such a long time, and they're well past beyond being reviewed. So I guess it falls on us, doesn't it, to ensure that our residents aren't disadvantaged by providing a top-up. So fully supportive of the paper. I've just got a question that's a point of clarification. Because we are in between the outgoing, I won't name them, the outgoing provider and the new housing adaptation service, is this an interim local arrangement as we transfer arrangements across? And will this be written into the new housing assistance policy? Thank you, Jen.
Jenny?
Thank you. If I refer to Jen to be able to answer that on a more technical basis.
Yep, sure. So, as members will be aware, we are moving to a shared service, in-house service hosted by Wyre Forest District Council from the 1st of April. And as part of that, we will be refreshing a single housing assistance policy for the whole county rather than having individual district policies. That's the reason we have included just an addendum today to pick up an issue that we have come across with a live case recently, just to make our existing policy as clear as possible should any further issues occur before we have renewed the housing assistance policy for the full county. So we are intending to bring the new policy to the 6 district councils later this year for approval, and we will be using our learning from this particular case that has led to this addendum to feed into that new policy that we adopt for the whole of Worcestershire. So we'd expect to pick up this particular issue in that fully refreshed and joint policy later this year.
Thank you, Jen. Any other questions before we go to the vote? Go to the vote. Oh, sorry, Paul.
Can I just say it's great that something local is being done? You know, it's great, a new initiative, and it's actually within our area rather than being imposed from above. Brilliant. Well done.
Thank you, Paul. Misha?
All those in favour, please raise your cards now. That's unanimous.
Thank you. And agenda item 10. So we're back to you, Jenny. It's the homelessness and rough sleeping strategy 2026 to 2031.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Absolutely, and staying on theme again with housing this evening, I'm pleased to present the draft homelessness and rough sleeping strategy for the next 5-year period, 26 to 31, and to seek Council's approval to proceed with an external consultation for 6 weeks. The strategy is a statutory requirement, but more importantly, it sets out how we respond to one of those most significant challenges that our communities face, basically ensuring that homelessness is rare, brief and non-recurring, both in line with the national ambition, but also our own council plan priorities. And we know homelessness is not just about housing, it is about people, their dignity and stability. And behind every case is someone experiencing uncertainty, often at times of crisis. So this strategy is about ensuring that when residents need our support, they are met with compassion, timely intervention and a system that helps to rebuild stability and independence. So the strategy before you has been developed collaboratively across Worcestershire with 5 of our districts. Worcester have done their own, but we have aligned with that. And I just wish to place on record my thanks to all officers and partners involved. It is a strategy that's been informed by data, partner engagement, and crucially, the voices of those with lived experience of homelessness. And it builds on the progress of the previous strategy and reflects a clear shift towards prevention and early intervention, supporting people before they reach that crisis point. The strategy you'll see also proposes to strengthen our partnership work, recognising that homelessness requires coordinated working across sectors like housing, health, social care and voluntary and community sector. And it sets out some clear outcomes and measures to track that progress. So subject to approval tonight, the draft will go out, as I said, for 6 weeks, ensuring that residents, partners and stakeholders have the opportunity to further shape the final strategy before it's adopted and before action plans will be agreed. And Chair, just in closing, I wish to highlight that preventing homelessness is fundamental to supporting the wellbeing and stability of our communities, and the strategy provides a clear and collaborative framework for how we will deliver that over those coming years. And so I'm pleased to commend the recommendations set out in 2.1 to the Council.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jenny. Do you have a seconder? This? Jeremy? Any comments? No. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Paul, can I come to you?
Just like to pay tribute to everybody that's put all of this together. After 2018, the events of 2018, we should never forget what can go wrong. 2 people dying in Malvern of all places. And I'll never forget that. And, you know, thank you very much for just making sure that that can never happen again.
Thank you, Paul. Any final comments or thoughts before we go to the vote? Natalie?
Sorry, I am conscious that I'm probably talking more than the portfolio holders today, but just to echo what Jenna said, really, I think this strategy, you know, has been a long time in the making. So I'm sure we're all relieved it's finally here, and I know that officers are too. Thanks to everyone who's worked so hard to get to this point, and for ensuring, as Jen said, that it's person-centred and compassionate, because at the end of the day, this isn't just a policy document, this is about people's lives. So let's hope it makes a tangible difference to some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. Some people might look at us and think homelessness isn't a problem in the Malvern Hills area, because we've got low reported numbers, and therefore it should be easy to work with less than a handful of people to encourage them to choose an alternative. But for every person we're engaging with, they will know several others who've fallen between the cracks. And the reality of the issue is that it's underreported and the actual figures are unknown. I will say it's a shame that we're being forced to endure local government reorganisation, because at the moment we're not in a powerful position in terms of solving the problem. For example, I know that Worcester City are planning to buy a property to be used as emergency accommodation, and other authorities are building social housing, having not done so for a long time, and are purchasing empty properties and buying right to buy housing stock back. So it's a bit too late for us, unfortunately, in Malvern Hills to do all of that now, and I appreciate that. I've had long-held concerns about providing stability for children, so I'm pleased to see a commitment to ending the unlawful use of B&Bs, but would have liked to see this broadened to ultimately end the use of B&Bs altogether, apart from in an emergency and for a very short period of time. An unstable home environment is an adverse childhood experience, and we know what a damaging lifelong impact they have on children and young people. So I've got a few questions. Sorry, I'll do them a couple at a time, shall I, or how do you want me to do them? I've only got 7 now. I've slimmed them down from about 15, so I'll just go for it, shall I?
Just give us all of them.
Okay. So I think we've received about less than £403,000 from government to tackle homelessness. So I was wondering what, if we had to choose 3 priority areas, what that would be allocated to. Then moving on to domestic violence, every report I've read at every level, from here up to local government association, points to the fact that the number of individuals and families fleeing domestic violence continues to rise. So what can we do? As Paul said, what can we do on a local level, taking control of our own problems, really, to find a local response, as highlighted in the Action Plan 2.21. And we know that households in which there's domestic violence and a pet, people are reluctant to leave the home in case that animal is hurt or killed. Often there is a correlation between animal abuse and domestic abuse. So did we all know that, for example, Cats Protection provide a fostering scheme for cats, so that people can leave home, flee the violence with their cat, and then it can be fostered until they're on a stable footing again. So just raising your awareness of that, but please can we get that message out there for people, because it could provide a way out for them. Our official number of rough sleepers is 3, as it has been for as long as I can remember. But as I said before, we know the actual figure's much bigger than that. So what is the plan to identify and support people often described as the hidden homeless? So people staying with friends, sofa surfing and living in their cars. Care leavers. I'm not sure whether we automatically put them into high priority banding. So we'd like some clarification on that one, please. And how do we support them to sustain a tenancy? And we have had some issues around the foyer in the past, so hopefully that's all died down now. But have we considered purchasing a property like they've done in Wychhaven? In fact, I think they're about to buy their second property for care leavers. And I'll chop through the next couple and just end with the fact that our communities have changed and diversified in recent years to the enrichment of us all, I think. So what are we doing as an authority to mark Refugee Week in June? Because that's covered in the report as well. So I've slimmed them down to 5 questions. Sorry.
I think I got about 8 there when I wrote them down, so.
So, Chair, I think I'll respond and look to Jen to do a bit of a double act, and I have been desperately trying to type down your responses in the absence of the pen. That's okay. I think I'll stick to some of the bullet points. I first wanted to thank you for your questions, but also your passion, and I acknowledge the fact that as the previous portfolio holder, you did a lot of work in this area too, and quite rightly will have questions and want to make sure that some of that good work comes through. You've mentioned a number of things in your response before the questions around being able to do stuff now before local government reorganisation. And all I would say is that that this is one strategy before you focusing on homelessness, but you'll recall through exec and council, we've seen other reports coming through where we're starting to really focus on that council plan priority of our own that we have about ending the use of B&B, about looking at how we can increase our temporary accommodation provision, but also looking at how we can repurpose some of those empty homes in the property. And I'm hopeful that a report will come before you soon that will be able to look at how that work has started, what the opportunities may be, and how we may be able to provide better temporary accommodation to a range of people that we see presenting as homelessness. I'll let Jen pick up about what the funding may be used for before I set out any stalls about what I think is the priority versus what officers may have identified how to spend that. In terms of domestic violence, I agree. And, you know, it is an absolute area and passion. Again, you'll note that we specifically put priorities in this council plan around tackling domestic abuse and providing support to victims of that in several ways. Again, what I think it's important to note that this is a rough sleeper strategy, and what will sit behind this will be some very detailed action plans for each district, not only what we can do in our own area, but also what we can do collaboratively and what we can make available in terms of schemes to enable people to safely leave different districts. So I'll let Jen pick up on any of the existing detail around that. And of course, you know, really about, you mentioned earlier, as being human-centred and ensuring that we are, when it comes to pets and from people that are victims of domestic abuse, that we are signposting to our partners and working closely with services. There is a lot that is out there, but if people don't know about it, I agree they won't access it. So that is a big part that we play as part of our service. You've talked about rough sleepers and the number 3, but agree with you, we only know what we've counted and not what we don't know in terms of those that are hidden. And of course, that homelessness is a very broad category. It isn't just rough sleepers. It's, you know, we certainly know we've seen increasing numbers of people presenting to the authority for a number of reasons. And we had a long conversation at exec around, you know, particularly single males and those that may be leaving prison and some of the challenges that we face. So I think it's really about what we identify as our priority, but what we can do in those action plans to really think through the detail of that. Care leavers, again, another area that I agree with you is something that we need to get right. And I think Jen may be able to pick up on some of those projects and schemes that we've been funding and also planning to support. And finally, on Refugee Week, I will look again to see if officers have plans. I'm absolutely keen that we do support that. And again, you'll know that I wanted an inclusion in our council plan around equality and diversity. It's incredibly important that we celebrate that across our communities, and I know that people will do that in different ways, but I'll check in with Jen. As I say, it's a double act, so for some of that detail I will look to the officers. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've also tried to capture your question, so please let me know if I've missed anything. So in terms of the priorities for use of the homelessness and rough sleeping funding, so the homelessness prevention grant that we receive, we always apply that in line both with the county homelessness and rough sleeping strategy, so what we're seeing tonight, but also our council plan. So for me, as kind of with a director hat on, and hopefully it aligns with my portfolio holder, I would say my top 3 priorities for that funding are increasing the supply of suitable temporary accommodation, to enable that shift away from B&B. And I think certainly Councillor Watkins has been really clear with us that she wants to see a shift away from all use of B&B wherever possible, although the strategy, being a county-wide strategy, does only refer to unlawful use because it's challenging to commit all councils to that, but that's certainly the direction of travel. So provision of suitable TA, increased accessibility of accommodation, suitable accommodation for young people, including care leavers, but the increased number of young people we are seeing who are facing homelessness and not necessarily leaving their family home tenancy ready, so need that extra bit of support for whatever reason. And I think exactly as you say, you've referred to domestic abuse, what more we can do around providing dedicated support. We obviously have dedicated domestic abuse outreach officers at the moment. We provide support to the Sanctuary Scheme on behalf of Public Health and the County Council, which enables people to stay in their own home rather than have to flee. And moving swiftly on to the domestic abuse question, just to build on Councillor Watkins' response. I recently attended a workshop, a county-wide workshop, following some work that Safe Lives have done, commissioned by Public Health, looking at the prevalence and system that is in place to support victim survivors of domestic abuse. And I attended that with our 2 domestic abuse outreach workers so that we could learn from absolutely people with lived experience, feeding that back, as well as agencies that support them. Really interestingly, we had a very lengthy conversation about pets. So it's really interesting, both from the perspective of pets as being something that means people can't flee as easily, but also exactly that, the risk of violence towards animals being a red flag. So we had some really in-depth conversations about that and how to link into support. Regarding rough sleepers, so yes, we currently have 3 in the official count. That has fluctuated. It has come down considerably, but and we know that although there is a little bit of turnover, it's generally quite entrenched rough sleepers that we're familiar with. I completely agree and think that the official numbers are the official numbers, and they're counted in a particular way, as we all know. One of the conversations we've had in the team just this week actually is what we can learn from colleagues nearby in Gloucester who have started running a women's rough sleeping census, because we know that women rough sleep in a very different way. So they will rough sleep in McDonald's, or they will sleep during the day, because being alone at night on the street is really risky. So there's brilliant work done elsewhere, and our team are meeting with Gloucester colleagues in the next month to see whether we can improve some work around women's rough sleeping census. Care leavers, yes. So I can read you the bit from the allocations policy. So young people leaving care who are identified as being tenancy ready would be placed in band 1. So they would be a priority in band 1. We, as you mentioned, we did step in alongside Platform Housing to save the foyer in Morven 2 years ago now. I'm pleased to say that's going really well, and we've continued that. Arrangement, and it's enabling us to save that much needed provision for young people in Morven. It's still highly used, regularly used. In terms of, I mentioned that part of our homelessness prevention grant, one of the priorities is provision for young people in whatever way that looks. What I would also say is that we do also access the Wychavon provision for Morven young people where it's appropriate. So it's not ideal. We'd rather have more space in Morven, but we do make sure that young people are able to have a roof over their heads. And more than happy to follow up lastly on Refugee Week. I'd suggest we also work alongside Morven Welcomes Group and our colleagues that have been supporting with the resettlement hub as well in Morven. So we've got loads of good things going on that we can shine a light on. I think I've covered everything.
I think you have. So well done. That's an impressive response from both of you, bearing in mind that I didn't give you sight of either of those questions. So, I know that you both care about the same things that I care about. And I'm, really happy to push this on your behalf at a county level and to do anything I can at a county level to help, support this strategy, because it's so important. The Refugee Week stuff, there's already been a bit of a scoping meeting with some members of the organisations that you met with. So great. I think there's plan to link you in if you haven't already been linked in via Amanda's team. So that's brilliant. And what was the last thing I wanted to say? It's great that the care leavers are in band 1, because that doesn't happen everywhere. It's a bit of a lottery with that. So it's something that from an LGA perspective, we're pushing on to make sure that there's not a postcode lottery in terms of that, and that all care leavers are put into priority 1, because they really ought to be. And yeah, just thank you very much. Oh, Night Stop, that was the other thing I was going to mention, because they're doing a lot of work in schools at the moment around prevention, and obviously they do a good job with mediation and trying to prevent those relationship breakdowns from happening in the home. So it'd be great to link in with them as much as we can. But thank you very much for your comprehensive responses.
Jenny?
Thank you. It's not that I want to have the last say, sorry, Natalie. But no, I wish to thank you for all of that comments and for your support, and we will absolutely take you up in terms of pushing up the county. I think the last thing I wanted to say, and mainly because you wasn't executive on Tuesday, which was sad because we pushed forward, obviously, the community wellbeing programme of funding that will be launched. And so, what I would hope is that both from an application basis from many of those organisations and groups out there and communities, that there will be opportunities to fund some more great work, but also because the members allocation fund is also being increased to £5,000 per year per member. So it'll again, for any causes, projects, community organisations out there that you want to also get involved in, that will be a great opportunity to strengthen some of this work.
That's some good breaking news, Jenny. Beverly, can I come to you? Paul, did you stick your hand up as well? Or no, I'll go to Beverly first.
I was just agreeing that I would help with Natalie as well if she, to boost things at county rather. 'Cause
Thank you, Paul.
I really think this is very serious, obviously.
Thank you, Paul. Sorry, Beverly.
No.
And then we'll go to the vote.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed. Yes, I did raise this at executive, but on para 332 on prison leavers, it is, of course, important to us. We do have a high security prison in the county, but obviously prisoners can be moving from many potential prisons into our district. It's good to see the fortnightly meetings, and the duty to refer is clearly important. It's good to see the community accommodation service accommodation, but there are no numbers around the success rate of housing prisoners post leaving prison. And the last paragraph recalls from this accommodation, the community accommodation service remain a concern at 50% with a positive housing pathway needing to be explored. And I just wondered if you could give me some idea as to how effective we are at housing prisoners on leaving prison and what is being explored around the community accommodation service. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Again, I'll refer to Jen if she has any detail on that. It may be something that we'll need to go away and come back to you on, Beverly, in terms of evidence and stats that sit behind some of what's set out in this strategy. But I agree, it's a very important point. I'll pass over to Jen.
Yeah, of course. So, certainly in terms of the figures and the kind of outcomes, because the community accommodation service is provided by our criminal justice partners, not by the council. Therefore, they would need to provide us with that information. It may well be that it's in the accompanying background documents, but I don't have it to the sort of tip of my fingers. But we'll certainly come back to you on that. We've done a lot of work across Worcestershire in building our criminal justice housing pathway, and that was adopted, I think, nearly 2 years ago now, but that's been particularly effective in terms of sharing information across criminal justice and housing partners and everybody being clear. So, for example, our housing officers, we have a dedicated housing officer who will meet with all prisoners over Teams before they leave prison. And talk through their housing options and make sure that their housing options are clearly understood. Whilst our role is specifically in making sure people have housing, there are lots of wraparound issues that mean that some people may well continue to reoffend. That's often out of our control as a housing authority. However, having good, safe, stable housing is absolutely fundamental to people's success on leaving prison. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely fundamental. It's a real challenge, but I feel confident that in Worcestershire, that relationship that we've built through the protocol and the procedure is really good basis for keeping on improving.
Yeah,
thank you. I'd just like to come back to say thank you very much, Jen. I look forward to hearing more detail and especially what the success rates are in housing prison leavers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Very quickly, Natalie.
Yeah, just quickly, and it's not because I want to have the last word at all, but I think we must remember really that there's a wider challenge around prisoners and release from prison, because just because somebody is imprisoned in Worcestershire, it doesn't mean say they live here and they go back further somewhere else. So equally, that applies that we could have people coming back into Malvern Hills from everywhere. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Yeah. No, I'm just making a point, Beverly, because I've worked in all of the prisons in Worcestershire, and some of them actually you don't tend to come out of, but there you are. So just acknowledging the wider and saying thank you to Pete for all the work he did on this to get it off the ground a couple of years ago.
Thank you, everybody. Shall we take this to the vote, Misha?
All those in favour, could you raise your cards now, please? That's unanimous.
Thank you. So agenda item 11 is I know we all look forward to the forward plan. That's the forward plan. And interestingly, the next meeting is the annual general meeting, isn't it, on the 12th of May. We have no notices of motion, so I'd like to close the meeting and see you all in May, if not before. Thank you.